On June 7th of 1943, controversial inventor, engineer and scientist Nikola Tesla died of heart failure at age 86 in a suite at the New Yorker hotel of which he was behind in rent many months. A maid at the hotel decided to check in on him after having seen a "Do Not Disturb" sign hanging from his door for a few days and discovered his body. Despite Tesla having been a US citizen for over 51 years, the FBI ordered the Office of Alien Property to seize all of his assets from the hotel 2 days later that included any devices, complete or incomplete, notes, journals, diagrams, and manuscripts. The boxes and boxes of files and other material were delivered to Dr. John G. Trump, who in 3 years would become uncle of the man who would later be elected the 45th and 47th President of the United States. Dr. Trump was an MIT graduate and well-respected electrical engineer and inventor, and a key researcher in the Allies' pursuit of radar in World War II. After reading the papers for 3 days, he officially reported that his thoughts and efforts during at least the past 15 years were primarily of a speculative, philosophical, and somewhat promotional character, often concerned with the production and wireless transmission of power, but did not include new, sound, workable principles or methods for realizing such results. Trump also stated he'd found within a case that had been purported to contain parts of Tesla's much-rumored death ray only a harmless Victorian-era resistance box, a device used for testing electronic circuits. Post-war, Trump retired from government service and returned to MIT, where he became director of the MIT High Voltage Research Laboratory. During his tenure, he would go on, with various collaborators, to invent radiation treatment for cancer, the first particle accelerators, and revolutionary wastewater management systems. Following his death in 1985, Trump's colleague James Melcher said this: "John, over a period of 3 decades, would be approached by people of all sorts because he could make megavolt beams of ions and electrons. Death rays. What did he do with it? Cancer research and all sorts of wondrous things. He didn't touch the weapons stuff." On January 12, 1943, the same day Dr. John Trump filed his report, 2,000 mourners gathered at a state funeral for Tesla at the Cathedral of St. John the Divine in Manhattan. Following the ceremony, Tesla's body was taken to the Ferncliff Cemetery, where hundreds of poets, artists, and other people of notoriety were buried. In 1957, Tesla's nephew and heir, Sava Kosanovic, a Yugoslavian politician and former ambassador to the US, won a court decision to have his uncle's belongings transported to Belgrade in Serbia, where they would be displayed inside the Nikola Tesla Museum, the centerpiece of which is a golden orb containing his ashes. In 2003, American engineer Martin Eberhard, with his business partner Mark Tarpening, founded Tesla Motors as a tribute to Nikola Tesla. Within 7 months, 33-year-old businessman Elon Musk, by far the company's primary financial investor, became chairman of the company's board of directors. Under Musk, Tesla Motors would evolve into Tesla Inc., which produced not only the most popular and advanced electric cars in the world, but also energy storage devices and systems, as well as a vast network of electric vehicle charging stations that made electric cars a practical option for consumers for the first time. Tesla Inc. is also at the forefront of robotics, specifically the development of humanoid robots. These machines, driven by artificial intelligence, will soon become some of the first permanent human-like inhabitants of the Moon and Mars, preparing the sites they build for colonization, a key stepping stone for mankind's future according to Musk, and an unexpected fulfillment of one of Nikola Tesla's ambitions to one day communicate with the inhabitants of Mars which was a popular late Victorian-era belief that an alien civilization thrived on the Red Planet. Within the lifetime of children born today, humanity will be that civilization, and it will have been achieved by technology, inspired by Nikola Tesla. How does this man's story begin? Near the very end of the military dictatorship of the Austrian Empire in what is now Croatia, in the small village of Smiljan, a 36-year-old priest of the Eastern Orthodox Church and his wife were raising a family of 3 children and soon expecting a 4th. Much of Nikola Tesla's fantastical history has been laced with embellishments and exaggeration, as of course have many notable figures, though in Tesla's case his story, even to this day, is being seasoned by urban legends and myths. The earliest anecdotal history claims that he was born at the strike of midnight in a thunderstorm. The midwife, rattled by the tumult outside, stated that the baby would be a child of darkness. Tesla's mother, however, replied that, no, he will be a child of light. Nikola's relationship with his father, Milutin, an Eastern Orthodox priest, was complex. On one hand, his father encouraged Nikola to spend as much time as he liked reading through his rich personal library, which led the young boy to learn 8 languages before the age of 10. But on the other hand, Milutin pressured Nikola to become a priest, though Nikola always felt more drawn to science and engineering. It would be a point of contention for over a decade to come. Nikola's mother, Duka, was also the offspring of an Eastern Orthodox priest. Though she was not formally educated, she inherited her father's eidetic memory and could recite epic Serbian poems at will. Nikola was very close to his mother and often reflected that his intellectual capacities were due to her influence. Nikola was also very close to and idolized his older brother Dane. Nikola's innocence would be shattered, however, when he witnessed Dane suffer a horrific and fatal fall while riding that would haunt Nikola for the rest of his life. It would instill in him a need to search for a means to reconnect with those whom he had lost and would yet lose. It also triggered the first hallucinations he would suffer for the rest of his life, fiery arcs of energy swirling around him. Were these visions supernaturally prophetic, or did they inspire the young genius in years to come? In 1862, Tesla's family moved to the picturesque town of Gospic, where Nikola would attend primary and middle school. His father became a priest at a local parish, which allowed the family to escape the constant reminders of the loss of their son and brother Dane back in Smiljan. Nikola, always introverted, became even more detached following Dane's death, and he suffered multiple dangerous health incidents during his time in Gospic, battles with malaria being the most severe. In 1870, 14-year-old Nikola moved 94 miles away from his family to Karlovac to attend high school at the Higher Real Gymnasium, where he would formally be introduced to theories and practical applications of electricity for the first time by the school's physics teacher. Tesla would later write about how this mysterious phenomena inspired him to learn more about this wonderful force. For a brief time, he was suspected of cheating by his teachers until he proved to them by independent testing he was actually performing integral calculus entirely in his head. He excelled in his studies and completed his 4-year course in just 3 years. But his health, once again, took a turn for the worse, forcing his family to bring him back to Gospic, where they nursed him for 9 months as he battled cholera. It was at his bedside during his convalescence, his father promised Nikola, despite having insisted since his son was born, that should he survive this sickness, he would permit him to attend university to study science rather than begin his training in the priesthood. university would have to wait for a year. Nikola escaped to the southeastern Dinaric Alps to avoid conscription into the Austro-Hungarian army. He disguised himself in hunter's clothing and explored the mountains and built up his physical and mental strength by the daily exertion and solitude. In 1875, Nikola won a military frontier scholarship to attend the Imperial Royal Technical College in Graz, Austria. He passed 9 exams, nearly doubling the requirement, and the dean of the technical faculty sent a letter of commendation to his father stating, "Your son is a star of first rank." The first 2 years of university were constructive and his grades impressive. But there were signs Tesla's state of mind might be suffering. He boasted openly about rising at 3 in the morning to begin his studies and not resting until 11 the next night. One professor wrote to his father advising him, should his son continue at this pace, he would be killed through overwork. By his 3rd year, Tesla's attitude toward his studies reversed completely after having been mocked by a popular student for essentially being a pet of the faculty, constantly praised for his intellectual abilities, but being a bore to everyone else. Tesla rebelled and, as was his character, became obsessed in his rebellion. He began to socialize to the point of complete distraction from his studies, smoked excessively, but most concerningly, he began what would be characterized today as a debilitating gambling addiction. Within months, he went from having a very bright future as an exceptional engineering student into the mouth of a downward spiral and became a derelict gambling addict with no prospects, no friends, and wandering from town to town, country to country, picking up work where he could find it to support his addiction. In 1879, a family friend happened upon Tesla gambling in a pub in Slovenia. When asked why he wasn't in Graz studying, Tesla brushed him off. Nikola's aging and unwell father, Milutin, traveled to Maribor to try and convince his son to resume his studies in Prague, as he'd burned too many bridges in Graz to return there. Staring at his devoutly religious father, Nikola spat out, "I can stop whenever I please, but is it worthwhile to give up that which I would purchase with the joys of paradise?" His father, broken-hearted, left his son there to his devices and returned home. Despite his plans, Nikola was arrested only weeks later as a vagrant and deported back to his home country, specifically to his family in Gospic. He'd been avoiding them for over a year while he lost himself in his addiction, but was now forced to face them, only a shadow of not only what he had been when he'd left, but even more so of what he could, or should, have become. The disappointment and emotional injury had been too much for Milutin, who passed away only a month after Nikola's return. To honor his father's wishes, Nikola, funded by his uncles, moved to Prague with the intent of registering at the university. Unfortunately, though he could speak 8 languages, Czech was not among them, and so he could not qualify for official registration and only attended courses in philosophy as an observer. But by 1881, Tesla began a professional ascension that would see him moving throughout Europe. First to Hungary, where he landed the position of chief electrician at the Budapest Telephone Exchange, and then the very next year to Paris, where he would unwittingly begin a many decades-long feud with the most powerful inventor the world had ever known. On the next episode of Nikola Tesla, Child of Darkness, Child of Light.